the last thing I want to get into is, did masks and social distancing actually do anything? Did masks and social distancing actually do anything? We'll find out right after this sip. So David Leondhart, Leondhart, wrote for the New York Times a piece called "Did COVID Precautions Work?" And he writes, quote, "These stark differences in how the U.S. has handled COVID have created a kind of natural experiment." So the stark differences in how different regions of the U.S. have handled COVID have created a kind of natural experiment. Did Omicron spread less in the parts of the U.S. where social distancing and masking were more common? The answer is surprisingly unclear. Nationwide, the number of official COVID cases has recently been somewhat higher in heavily Democratic areas than Republican areas, according to the Times data. The comparison doesn't fully answer the question, though, because Democratic areas were also conducting more tests, and the percentage of positive tests tended to be somewhat higher in Republican areas. No single statistic offers a definitive answer. When I look at the evidence, I emerge thinking that liberal areas probably had slightly lower Omicron infection rates than conservative areas. But it is difficult to be sure, as these state-level charts by my colleague Ashley Wu suggest. And I'll throw these up on the video for people listening. So I'm just looking at a graph of daily average cases per capita in Georgia, Ohio, Washington, and Texas, and it's split up by people who voted for Trump, blue line, and people who did not vote for Trump, which were the red line. Am I getting that right? I fucking mix that up in my head all the time. Not like it matters, but let me look that up. Blue Republican. Boop, boop. Red Republican. I don't remember what I said, so I'm just going to say I got it right. So red Republican, blue Democratic, but I'm basically looking at a chart where it's showing the cases per capita, and the lines look pretty close. It's, red and blue are pretty close in Georgia, Washington, Texas, and Ohio. There's not really much of a difference. Some states, it's more cases for Republicans. Some cases, it's more for Democrat. But the number one piece of irrefutable evidence is that vaccines were an overwhelming net positive. That is the one thing that mouth-breathing people can say, is that if you actually look at the evidence, vaccines were an overwhelming net positive. Not that there haven't been any adverse effects, not that there haven't been complications, but if you got vaccinated, you were pretty much better off than if you didn't get vaccinated on average. After that, it is a toss-up. So David Leondhart goes on to write, quote, "The lack of clear pattern is itself striking. Remember, not only have Democratic voters been avoiding restaurants and wearing masks, but they also are much more likely to be vaccinated and boosted, and vaccines substantially reduce the chances of infection. Combined, these factors seem as if they should have caused large differences in case rates. They have not." So the behavior and attitudes of Democrats and Republicans outside of getting vaccinated has not really done shit. The mask wearing, the social distancing, now that we have 2 years of data, according to this article, the differences in case rates aren't there. We're not seeing a huge spike in case rates in Republican states. Like, I was just in Florida. I didn't see a mask for 5 days straight. I think when we crossed the state line of Florida, when we were on the plane, I felt the mask just fly off my face. They cracked the window on the plane so the mask would get sucked off of our faces as we crossed the state line of Florida. Because that's how anti-mask Florida is. They won't even let you cross the state line on land, sea, or air with a mask on. And it was a great time. It's a great time. Went to a wedding. It was awesome. Talked about it on the last podcast. But other than that, it is clear at this point that the social distancing and the difference in social distancing and mask wearing of Republican versus Democratic states did not do anything. Or if it did, it's not a significant difference. It's not a statistically significant, noticeable difference with the mask and social distancing. And I don't think it was a bad thing at the beginning. Again, we didn't know what worked, and I wore a mask outside for a while. I'll still wear masks inside, if a place requires it, or in some cases, if I'm with someone who's very high risk. But it's like we had this whole culture war over wearing a piece of cloth over our face, and some people saying, if I wear this on my face, all my rights are getting taken away. And then on the other side, you had, if you don't wear this on your face, you're a Nazi. Like literally people saying things on social media where it's both ends of the spectrum are just horribly misguided. And I'm not counting myself outside that. I definitely got swept up by COVID-related propaganda, since we're talking a lot about propaganda in this episode. And then I've finally looked into mask statistics around, I want to say it was September, October of 2020. And some things started to come out of, maybe masks aren't doing anything. If you're not, I remember reading a bunch of articles on, unless you're wearing an N95, you're not really doing shit. I remember I was watching videos of people in China smoking cigarettes through masks and literally blowing the smoke through masks. And I'm thinking, like, if this can't even block saliva smoke droplets, how is this blocking a COVID virus? Like, how is this tiny, like this minuscule virus going through the mask if I can literally rip a cigarette and blow it through your face, blow it through the mask into your face? I remember thinking that early on, like, that's funny. Like, everyone's saying wearing a mask, but I'm breathing fine in it. And I'm actually smoking a cigarette and blowing it through the mask. That's incredible. At the end of the day, reading this article and having the experience that I've had in Brooklyn, again, things are going backwards now. It feels like a little bit in Brooklyn with Omicron. It's letting up, but more people are wearing masks outside in the winter. And, I stopped wearing a mask outside probably over a year ago at this point. But beware of things that have become culture warified. And what I mean by culture warified is that the thing stops becoming a thing and it becomes a symbol of how you think and how you act. So the mask was culture warified in this country because if you wore a mask, people assumed you were Democrat. And if you didn't have a mask, people assumed you were Republican, also known as a Nazi, at least in the media. And this is odd because we also have a covering that is meant for protection, and it's called a seatbelt. And no one freaks out. Like, if I have someone in my car that doesn't wear a seatbelt, I'm not like, you fucking Republican. Like that, like how ridiculous. I'm like, no, this person's just choosing not to wear a seatbelt. And if someone buckles up, I'm not like, you voted for Biden, didn't you? I knew it. The moment I smelled you, I heard that buckle and I went click, you voted for Biden. Like that the seatbelt is in a lot of ways very similar to the mask, but it hasn't become a culture warified symbol. No one associates your political standing based on whether or not you wear a seatbelt. And they're both for protection. You could both, like, if you don't wear a seatbelt and you're in the back seat, you could possibly fly through a windshield or even fly into another passenger and injure them. Because that's the argument a lot of people made, is that if you don't wear a mask, you're hurting other people. You're injuring other people. And and that's a whole nother discussion on its own. But like, why do people not think that way with seatbelts? It's the same thing. If I don't wear a seatbelt, I'm a risk to myself and others in the car. But no one says like, I know who you voted for because you buckle up. Like there's no highway signs that say buckle up for Biden. That would be hilarious. I bet you there will be. Bet you 2024, buckle up for Biden. Buckle up. It's going to be a long 4 years. But beware of things that become culture warfied. Do your own research. And I'll say this. I don't believe in making people freak out. Like, I don't take pride in the fact that I stopped wearing a mask outside early on in the pandemic when everyone else in Brooklyn was. Like, I would go weeks without seeing someone without a mask outside when I would go on a walk. Brooklyn's a super liberal area. But I don't believe in shaming the other side for not agreeing with you. For, if someone's freaking out at you, if someone's like, if you're wearing a mask, someone's like, yeah, brother, like, let's go Democrats. Or if you're not wearing a mask in Brooklyn and someone's like, fuck you, like, you don't fuck it. Like, the best thing to do, just, keep walking, nod, just keep walking. Unless someone's physically trying to harm you, just fucking do your own research, nod, just be like, all right, keep walking past the Karens on both sides. They're Republican Karens, they're Democrat Karens. Like, they're literally just, the only thing you can do is do your own research, and just know that even by looking up research, you're in like the 10% of people who are actually giving a look. It's probably less than that. And there are going to be a lot of people that don't agree with you. And the mask will not be the last thing that becomes more than the object. The mask is literally a covering to cover your face and your lips and your mouth. Before 2 years ago, it was something reserved for surgeons and Asian tourists. And now the mask is a symbol of which party you voted for. That is fucking insane. So be on the lookout for culture warfied objects. Do your own research. As long as no one's trying to physically harm you, make your own decisions. Like, I got called out like 3 or 4 times on the sidewalk. People telling me to put on a mask like in the summer 2020. It's like 89,000 degrees outside, and there's like some fat person smoking telling me to put on a mask, and I'm like, all right, dude. Like, if you die, it's not because of COVID. But yeah, make your own decisions, do your own research, keep walking. That's all you can do. Hey guys, this is a quick reminder to check out Auxoro Premium, the best deal in premium podcasting. On Auxoro Premium, you gain access to bonus episodes, the unlicensed therapy series, the ability to submit topic suggestions for the podcast, exclusive Ask Me Anything episodes, and the entire premium catalog for only $5 per month. Go to auxoro.supercast.com, that's AUXORO.supercast.com, to join the premium gang today.